Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. I'm Chris, this is my channel. Absolute pleasure to have you with me here. And, as many of you will probably know, last weekend I was at the MCM London Comic Con. And while I got out some content with regards to the action figure Hasbro-y stuff at the earlier part of the week, got that out as a matter of urgency, I did also gather some thoughts and notes about the convention experience as a whole and captured some sort of general B-roll of me hanging out at the London MCM Comic Con. So in this video, I'm just going to share some broad, wider thoughts I had about the event. So come with me now as I share with you some thoughts and commentary on the event overall, share some of that B-roll I just mentioned, and just generally give you a sense of what the vibe is at an MCM London Comic Con. Let's get into it. All right, folks, well, here we are. I've made it. I'm at the London Comic Con. There's the XL Centre behind me. I have actually already been inside. I've dropped a bag off in the cloakroom. Now I'm out in the wind with my crazy hair. Had my hat on this morning. I'm absolutely fucking knackered. I set off at some ungodly hour this morning. Getting a good shot of the old forehead and the outrageous hairline. Let's sort that out. I've had a coffee. I've had a quick mooch around. Went straight to the Hasbro stand. Took some photos of the G.I. Joe cabinet, particularly the new wave that they announced at New York Comic Con last week. Panels tomorrow. But yeah, sun's out. It's glorious. It's actually really warm for autumn. So I'm going to go have a bit of a mooch around. Okay, so the overview headline information then. So the MCM London Comic Con took place over the weekend of the 24th to the 26th of October. It was happening at the London XL, massive exhibition centre down in sort of Canary Wharf, Docklandsy area, to my limited land and knowledge. And traditionally, historically, it's an annual event that has been taking place, in October, around and about that time, the last sort of weekend of October, for a few years now. In fact, I've been going to MCM Comic Cons for many, many years, perhaps more so in my 20s and 30s before I was a parent. And more specifically, I used to go to the Manchester and the Birmingham ones because they're closer to home for me. I can get to both of those quite conveniently in a day without having to make it a whole massive, whole weekend trip, which is what I had to do for London this year. I'm also a frequent attender of the UK Games Expo, which is another large convention here in the UK for tabletop board gamers. In fact, my visit to the London Expo this year reminded me of some past times at Comic Cons, and I dug out some old photos. Would you like to see some old pictures of a young 20-something Chris? Look at this guy. Look at this guy. I haven't changed a bit, have I? Aside from the hair colour, I'm still as youthful and as handsome now as I was then. So yeah, I'm now a big old adult parent, man-child, visiting a convention, but I'm credible. I've been to many, many conventions for a long, long time, and I used to visit the MCM Comic Cons before they became Repop events, and honestly, I've not been to one since the pandemic. So it's a large-scale event. They list it as the largest Comic Con to take place in the United Kingdom, and I wouldn't doubt that from my experience there the last weekend, both in terms of headcount and footfall, number of exhibitors, I suppose the scale and celebrity of the guests that they have, the number of panels taking place, all those good things would, to a cursory kind of eyeball across the website, would tell me that's an accurate statement, an accurate marketing statement from their point of view. So there you go. You got the lay of the land. You got some of the basic information, and also some of my perspective on the event and what kind of eyeballs I'm looking at it with. Let's now talk a little bit about the venue and atmosphere. So the London XL is big. It is huge. I noticed when I walked from the length of the kind of front door area through to right at the back of the convention centre where the panels were taking place, there was a number of halls, in fact, that they weren't using. They were just using a pair of halls either side close to the front door. So it's a massive event. I'd say it's not as big as the Birmingham NEC. The Birmingham NEC is just sprawling and got stuff going on all over the place. But of course, at these types of events, it depends on how many of the halls they are using. And they were using two pretty massive halls, as well as a further hall towards the back for the panel events. It was certainly pretty spacious. As I was walking around, I'll run some B-roll now. You can see that the gaps, the alleyways, were pretty wide. There was nice space to maneuver between the stands, between the exhibitors, which is always great to see. One of my criticisms of some of the stuff I've been to in the past is that it's too narrowly packed in, and on a busy Saturday, you can't move. Speaking of which, on the Saturday, after the general entry opened at 11, until about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, it was ram-packed. This footage playing right now is the general entry coming in at 11 because I was going against the grain. I was trying to get up to the panels at the back of the exhibition centre just as they let in all the general entry, and they were all obviously heading down to the other end, to the front of the exhibition centre for the main events. But despite how busy it was, I don't think it was too much trouble. I will confess that the cosplayers, and it was just cosplay madness, were a little bit disruptive for a sort of general average Joe like me. Although you could argue I was going in 90s Manchester man cosplay. But you couldn't move for an oversized sword being swung in your face or standing on a cape, or some of the cosplay was wildly impractical for just kind of getting around, that's for sure. But if you take a look at this B-roll that's running right now, you can see that there was just cosplayers everywhere. Otherwise, I mean, the core stuff that you'd expect from a venue, food, drink, facilities, all that kind of good stuff, it was abundant. There was plenty of places to get a bite to eat, plenty of places to pick up a beer, and plenty of places to, go do your business, plenty of toilet facilities, etc., etc. Not hard to find. I did notice a bit of queuing going on during the busier periods around the food and drinks and around the toilets for sure. What I will say is the food and drink seemed badly, like the proportion of seating and table kind of spaces for you to sit and have your meal was a little bit lacking. But you know what? You can just head out the convention centre and make your way into the streets of London, and there was plenty of stuff around that I found. I found a lovely little chippy and a little pharmacy because I needed to visit the chemist, like literally a few minutes walk away. So the food and drink facilities were good. The toilet facilities, just this kind of seating arrangements if you needed to take a break, or the quieter areas were lacking. But overall, clean, well organised, well sorted out. Like the whole kind of entry system to get in was fine and dandy. In fact, I had a few things to say about that at the beginning of day 2. Let's play that now. Okay, well, here we are then, day 2. I'm on the I just got off the train, and now I'm on the outrageously long trek where they take you down all the storage doors around the back to get in, even if you've already got your pass. Got a hat on today so that my hair doesn't look so wild. Just been having a conversation with Lawrence, a Punk with Toys, about messy hair in the chat on his live stream while I ate breakfast at the hotel. So, no receding hairline for you folks this morning. I'm even more knackered than I was yesterday. My old man back and my old man hips and my old man ankles are not handling this very well at all. Bobby Soldier on, Hasbro panel later on. I half considered trying to live stream it, but the Wi-Fi is just fucking dreadful here. I mean, absolutely outrageous. So we'll see what we can do. So let's get in there, get a bit more B-roll. I was hoping it'd be a bit quiet this time in the morning with my priority ticket, but it doesn't appear to be the case looking at the queues. Looking at all the people making their way in. So see how it goes. Which takes me to, let's have a little bit of chat about the merchandisers and the exhibitors that were there. Now, anyone who takes a cursory glance at this channel will know that I'm, a superhero, science fiction, fantasy. I'm there for toys. I'm there for comic books. I'm there for interesting merchandise around the intellectual properties that I am a fan of. And what I will say is that this is where the con was mostly lacking for me. As a toy collector, I mean, Hasbro was obviously there, and they were a main driving force for my visit. I wanted to go see the Hasbro exhibition stand, and I wanted to go and see the Hasbro panel. It was exciting to me that something I often see from over the ocean was taking place here on my own little island. But outside of that, the kind of toy collector stuff and the comic collector, the comic book stuff was pretty lacking, especially considering it's called a Comic Con. In-demand toys were there, Kapow toys were there, comics and cocktails were there, so some of those retailers that you'll have heard me talking about that I buy my stuff from were present and correct. But beyond that, the toy stuff was kind of, Bandai were there, in all fairness. So if you're into Gundams, or if you're into like little Gashapon, I think I pronounced that right, little capsule toy things, then, they were present. But I'm not a Gundam guy, so I just took a cursory glance and thought, that stuff looks kind of cool, but it wasn't for me. Which leads me to one key observation. There was a massive focus at the con on like Japanese culture, Japanese products, anime, manga, companies like Bandai were there, lots of independents. If you take a look down Artist Alley, for example, which I think I've got some B-roll that should be running right now, but if I haven't, then you're looking at me. If you look down Artist Alley, it was all anime-focused stuff, all the prints, all the artwork, all the independent comic book stuff had kind of an anime tone to it, a manga tone to it. The prints were all characters from, what was popular right now, Chainsaw Man and Dan and, whatever the new kind of, whatever the latest like fan isekai thing was, it was, and this was also evident in the cosplayers, an incredible amount of anime-related cosplayers. And I can't begrudge them that, I can't criticize the con for that. It is, as much as the fan focus is there, it is, a commercial affair, and they're seeking to make money, so they're going to bring in stuff that's popular with the punters. And it was clear at a cursory glance of the cosplayers and the types of fans that were knocking around and the stalls that were proving popular that the anime-related stuff was, was a driving force for many of the people to go to the Comic-Con. But for me, who's, I suppose, what you would call a bit more of an old school kind of millennial type Comic-Con attendee, there was a distinct lack of kind of comic book stuff, science fiction-y stuff, fantasy stuff, certainly a very small presence of comic books, not many stalls with kind of long boxes to go rooting through. The merchandise that was there was largely anime related. When you look at stuff like the kind of replica weapons and cosplay stalls, it was all about dressing up like anime characters. They had lightsabers and they had Lord of the Rings swords, but the rest of the stuff was all Final Fantasy and what have you, which affected my enjoyment of the event a great deal. That said, over in Hall 2, there was a good, strong presence of kind of video gaming, tabletop gaming, and interactive kind of exhibitors over there, which was much more to my liking and much more in my comfort zone. As far as tabletop gaming goes, Magic the Gathering was there, the Star Wars Unlimited game was there, Flesh and Blood was there, all doing demonstrations, all doing kind of live gameplay and stuff. There was also a family gaming zone with some family board games and stuff, which were open for you to get involved in. The Lego stand, which was extremely popular. This had some exhibition cabinets with some products for show, but they also had a demonstration of a new video game. I think it was a Lego superhero thing. And they had their kind of build and keep thing going on as well. Obviously super popular, much more kind of family orientated than some of the anime stuff that was hanging around. The Dungeons and Dragons stall, you could go in, they have this whole kind of create your own character thing that was going on, which was really cool. And there was some other tabletop exhibitors. There was one that was brilliant. I apologize to them because I forgot their name, but it was decked out like a little board game pub thing, which I thought was really, really fun. And some of the kind of role-playing stuff that was taking place. So despite my criticisms about the kind of anime focus in the more kind of shopping space of the event, the second hall had loads of kind of gaming stuff. Oh, and console gaming as well. I mean, that one just looks ominous, doesn't it? Who's going in there? Just row and PC gaming. There was a gaming bus and tables with loads of PCs and consoles decked out so people could go and do some kind of LAN gaming and stuff. So those kind of gaming and interactive elements were present and correct, and that had a little bit more variety. And, there was comic book stuff there. It was present and correct, like the CGC were there about comic book grading. eBay were there doing their kind of live auctions, and that was all trading cards and Pokemon the card game and comic books and stuff. So that was there. And there were some stands with long boxes of old comics in and stuff. I just felt like the ratio was a little bit disparate, and that the anime focus was a lot stronger. There was some weird and wonderful stuff there as well. There was a stall that was selling smart clothing that was all lit up. It was in dark and it had pumping music and all the t-shirts and hats were going off, which was really just like a little fun thing there for people to enjoy. Towards the back of the hall as well, there was the Doctor Who Dalek folks, and they had their remote-controlled Daleks going around through the hall, harassing people and stuff, being quite funny, but you can then go back and see their gear. There was some live wrestling exhibitions, but if you went to like some of the music and cosplay events, those all had a strong anime focus. I stopped in and watched a pianist at one moment, and she was an exceptional player. There's no two ways about it, but I became very aware that she was playing kind of soundtrack stuff and OVA type stuff for popular anime programs, because all the people in the audience to the left, to the right, and in front of me were all kind of anime cosplay folks and sort of teenage anime enthusiasts, at least to my casual eye. As far as kind of video games and movies and stuff, there was Predator Badlands was being promoted quite heavily, and there was a Predator Badlands experience. I didn't film any of the inside stuff on that, but it was fun. It was, it was good to see. And Benedict Cumberbatch's new movie was there, but it didn't feel very Comic-Con-y to me. They were just sort of advertising the movie. But it was present and correct, and some of the panels in one of the stage areas, I went and sat in on a few bits. We saw some trailers being played. I saw the Mandalorian and the Grogu trailer that was shown previously at New York Comic Con, I want to say, or the Disney Expo. There was the new James Bond video game, saw some footage of that. So, there was some interesting stuff. I found it very hard, though, even with the app, to sort of manage my time and manage myself to get to things that I did want to see. And overall, as far as panels were concerned, I only went to one, but let's take a break there and talk about panels and guests and autographs and such like, shall we? So as far as panels and guests go, I only went to the Hasbro one. It was the only one I was particularly interested in going to. However, where you go to attend some of the panels, some of the queues for the seating were extremely long. There was obviously some very popular people speaking that there were people there to specifically see. The panel schedule does look good. It does look good, but I wouldn't say I was qualified to comment because I only went to one. There was one particular panel I was interested in. I went to that one panel. I didn't go see any of the celebrities speak. I didn't go and see any of the like the artists or the industry people doing their talks. There was just one I saw where I sat in on, which was about comic book artists, which was interesting, but I just happened to be passing. Was like, I'll sit in on this kind of thing. As far as the guests go, it seemed like they had a good spread of guests. I didn't really know who many of the people were. I'm obviously getting a bit old and boomerish now because I'm like, who's that and who's that? Talking to one of my friend's daughters, though, she clued me in and said, oh, well, that's the dude who does the voice in this cartoon, and that's the dude from this new Netflix series that all the kids are watching. I was like, okay, I'll have to take your word for it. John Bernthal was there. I saw Danny John Jules from Red Dwarf wandering around. He pointed at me and gave me a little nod because I was wearing my Mr. Flibble t-shirt on the Saturday. Christopher Mintz-Platts was there, McLuhan. So there were, big name celebrities, and every time I walked past the area where the autographs were taking place, the queues were enormously long, which was a surprise to me because if you see the price tariff on the autographs, the meet and greets, and the professional photos, it's an absolute small fucking fortune to snatch 5 minutes and get a photo and an autograph from these people. I think John Bernthal was something ridiculous, like 120 quid, which meant if I did want to meet him and, I don't know, take a Punisher figure along to get signed or something, it was a non-starter at those kind of prices. And it wasn't very clear on the website. I think, the price accumulates as well. So, you got an autograph fee, then a meet and greet photo fee, and then if you want them to sign stuff that's not there, the standard print is an additional charge and all this kind of stuff. I also know someone, I was talking to them, they tried to take a sneaky shot on their phone of one of the celebs, I think one of the Stranger Things people, and they got bollocked and told off by the staff for doing it and asked to delete it and stuff. So I think, if you've got the money and you're that passionate about the show and that passionate about the celebrity that meeting them, paying that money and having that experience is worthwhile and meaningful for you, then fine. But I was just, in the first instance, priced out, and secondly, not familiar with who half the people were anyway, And I found it much more fulfilling sort of meeting some of the artists who are down Artist Alley, who may be attached to a smaller publisher, or, I met a guy and had a bit of natter with him who was an official Lucasfilm artist who did some kind of Lucasfilm artwork for some of their books and products and stuff. Although we spent more time talking about trainers, Adidas trainers. We're both sneaker fans, Adidas sneaker fans. So, I don't know. I wasn't there for the celebrity guest autograph meet and greet panel experience. I think for those who were, I think they put on a good spread, and there's a good broad variety of celebs. And from what I understand, some of the panels were really, really good if you're there to ask questions and speak to these people in that kind of environment. But it just wasn't for me. I used to go a lot. I've got loads of photos with like the cast of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Stargate and Charmed and things, which I suppose kind of dates when my convention attendance was at its highest. It probably gives you a sense of roughly when it was I was going to these conventions a lot. A few kind of random cool bits and bobs that I did happen across. Swarovski was there, showing off their crystal superhero range, Marvel superhero range. They had like a 23 grand crystal Hulk statue and a Black Panther, which looked amazing. And there should be some B-roll or some screenshots, some photos on screen right now for you to take a look at that, which is just like a random thing to happen across. There were some great statues. I saw a Batman and a Superman over the other side of the hall there as well. But that leads me into like a little bit of conversation now about I've talked a lot about what was there, but let me tell you a little bit about what wasn't there. And what I'd probably say is that considering the size and scale of the event, and considering the size and scale and fandom of some of the intellectual properties that I thought I might see more stuff of, there was a distinct lack of Star Warsy stuff. I felt like there was a distinct lack of sort of Marvel and DC sort of superhero-y type stuff. I felt like your fantasy things, your Lord of the Rings, like Warhammer. I saw a couple of Warhammer cosplayers about in like Imperial Guard uniforms, but there wasn't any Warhammer fantasy, Warhammer 40k, like distinctly lacking on that front. And yes, Wizards of the Coast were there with a Dungeons and Dragons stand, and the Flesh and Blood game was there, and there were the odd stall. Like I said, there was some people selling lightsaber replicas, and I saw an art stand that had like a Tauntaun head behind it and stuff, but I just felt like it was minimal, and there certainly wasn't a lot of places to go and have a rummage for interesting merchandise. If you are a comic book fan, or if you're like an 80s movie fan, or if you were a sword and sorcery kind of fantasy guy or whatever, it just seemed very lacking on that front. As I said before, like you go wandering through Artist Alley and it was just stall after stall with print after print of anime inspired or direct kind of anime property stuff going on. And you were walking through the sellers and, you weren't short of a Japanese collectible card game seller, but I didn't see a lot of stuff, or Japanese statues or Japanese inspired clothing or, boba tea things or whatever. But I didn't see much of what you would think there'd be a lot of there, with regards to things like Star Wars, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones, that stuff that you would think would be kind of top ticket items, which might be a sign of the changing times, and how some of these properties have now transitioned into the sort of Disney Plus, Warner Brothers streaming era and things. I don't know. I don't know what that's telling us, but I certainly felt like there wasn't a great deal of spaces for me to go rummaging around to try and find interesting merchandise that would be of interest to me around the types of things that I like. I didn't see much in the way of Transformers, didn't see much in the way of G.I. Joe, didn't see much in the way of kind of science fiction movies or fantasy movies, aside from the Hasbro stand, of course, where obviously I saw some G.I. Joe Transformers stuff. Now, it might have been there and I missed it. It was busy and it was an overwhelming experience. And as I've said on a previous video there, I was also kind of having a dad time. I was hanging out with some people that I sort of knew that I was meeting up with, and I was having a couple of beers and stuff. And, when you decide to go and get some food, it is a bit of a mission. It takes 45 minutes of an hour out of your schedule to go and try and get yourself a burger and chips and a beer for your lunch and then find a table or somewhere to sit down and eat it, So it may have been there and I missed it. And if that is the case, then fine, hands up, I'll say, I was trotting around trying to find interesting things. And perhaps that I passed them by without kind of giving them their due time. But I did feel like that sort of stuff was lacking. And for a Comic Con, not a lot of comic-y stuff. Just wasn't. So there you go, folks. There's my little kind of overview, stroke review of the MCM London Comic Con event. Final thoughts. Yeah, for the cost of getting down there, the train ticket, the hotel, the entry and all that kind of stuff, I would probably say it was actually a little bit on the side of disappointing for me. I don't think it caters very well for the 40-something, 50-something OG comic convention type guy like me. Which I get, Then, as I said before, it's a corporate affair. It's it's a capitalist venture. They're looking to make money, and they're going where the money is. And so the celebrity selection and the kind of stands and exhibitors that they had there were much more designed to accommodate that crowd and that audience, who are probably also more laden with disposable income overall, or families, mum, dad, 2 kids going there trying to find things to do for a little bit of weekend fun. And so that's fine, but I did ask myself and reflect upon, well, was the cost worth it? And I think if I was to go again next year, rather than making a weekend of it, I'd probably just head down for one day, maybe the Saturday. I went Friday and Saturday with the plan of doing some shopping and some looking around on the Friday, and then doing things like the Hasbro panel, and more of a kind of drinky day on the Saturday. And I think I would probably not do that again. I don't know. I'd have to have a think on that. Certainly it's the case that Hasbro, wanting to go to the Hasbro panel and the Hasbro stall, they only really do the London Comic Con. They don't do the Manchester or the Birmingham ones, or they don't tend to do the summer event. They tend to be there for that kind of autumn winter event. So who knows? I'd have to put some thought into it. But there you go. There's my look at MCM London Comic Con. Any questions or anything you want to ask me, or any thoughts or reflections, or if you were there, if I did miss something, you're like, hey Chris, you've got about this, or did you see this, then let me know in the comments down below. But thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little overview of my convention experience last weekend, and come back again for another video sometime soon. All right, take it easy, folks.